Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Healing Summit. I am the CEO of Sacred Healing Institute, also Life of Emerald. I'm happy to welcome our doctors, Dr. Azeeza, Dr. Conor, and Dr. Carole from all over the world. Our topic today is effective communication for exceptional relationships for emotional intelligence as part of Sustainable Impact SDG goal number 3. Now, allow me to introduce you to our panelists. Dr. Carole Robin wrote a book called Connect with David Bradford. It is about building exceptional relationship with family, friends, and colleagues based on Stanford Business School's legendary interpersonal dynamics, touchy-feely course. She has been in the business of helping leaders grow for over 35 years. The head of programs of leaders in tech, she taught at the Stanford Graduate School of Business for 17 years and served as a faculty director of the Interpersonal Dynamics for High Performance Executive Program and director of the Archvocal Leadership Fellow Program. Dr. Carole, honored to host you here.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here.
Our next speaker is Dr. Conor Hogan. Dr. Conor Hogan helps high performers achieve the highest plateau. He has worked with professional athletes and musicians, entrepreneurs, business and salespeople, and educationalists in maximizing their potential. He has been an international author, writer, speaker, coach, educator, and therapist. Dr. Conor believes that effective communication is one of the keys to exceptional relationships, both personally and with oneself as well. Dr. Conor, honored to host you here.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
And our third speaker is Dr. H.C. Azeeza. Dr. Azeeza is a pioneer in transformation industry from Asia since 2002. She has been supporting business leaders and management teams in listed companies and SMEs in their personal and business alignment. Weathering many breakdowns in health, finance, and relationship in life, Dr. Azeeza created the conscious leadership framework for business leaders to thrive inside out. As a founder of Go Global Business School from Singapore, her work has impacted thousands of global leaders online and offline in supporting them to discover their true beingness and lead a life filled with love, peace, and joy. Dr. Azeeza, nice to host you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kate. And thank you, everyone.
And I am a healer, storyteller, and social entrepreneur from Seoul, Korea. I have 15 years of teaching experience, including educating STEM college graduates sponsored by the South Korean government. I am the alumnus of the Stanford Graduate School of Business LEAD program. My ancestors are kings of South Korea of the Joseon dynasty and the scholars of the noble class and kings in the Silla dynasty. It is an honor to host our scholars in our summit and my privilege to serve the world. So welcome everyone listening globally on Clubhouse, Zoom, everywhere. I would love to walk us in a journey of inner resilience through 1-minute meditation. Allow me to guide us. So please close our eyes. Taking a deep breath in and out. Settle our energy conscientiously. Please take in a deep breath in and straighten our spine. So we all dignified in the body. And as we exhale, please tune into our body and soul. Come back to our body. And one last breath in, please. Fill your lungs with green emerald light, any color that nurtures you. Then exhale. I'm grateful I can breathe today. All right, thank you, thank you. So we have esteemed panelists here. I'm really excited to speak about the elephant in the room, such as mental health, with world-class leaders in spirituality, psychology, medicine, governance, and business. Today, our topic is about effective communication. Shall we learn with our doctors about how to navigate 2021 skillfully? Now, about the communication, Dr. Carole, I'd love to start with you. I was watching your video lecture about touchy-feely and how do we mindfully communicate in our corporate world and in our family. And one of the things I hear you say is that when two people are interacting, there are three realities going on. Could you springboard from there and then speak to us about how do we effectively communicate during COVID-19, please?
Yes, thank you. So this is easier with a picture, but I will do my best to describe it without the picture. And anybody who's got the book might want to follow along. But the basic premise, as you said, is that in any interaction between two people, there's reality number one. I'm going to use an example to make the point. So we're going to say this involves my husband and me. And reality number one is what's going on for him. His thoughts, his feelings, his motives, his intentions. Reality number two is what he says and doesn't say and doesn't do. That is the only reality known to both of us in a particular moment. And then reality number three is the impact of what he's done or not done or said or not done on me. So that's reality number three. And the mistake that a lot of people make is not recognizing that there are actually three realities. So imagine now a metaphorical net that exists between reality number one, his reality only known to him, and his behavior. And let me give you a very practical example. So he comes home, this is many years ago, he comes home, he's tired, he's had a long day. I have been home with an infant and a 2-year-old, and I can't wait for some adult interaction. So I come running into the living room and I say to him, oh my God, you're home. Thank God. You won't believe what happened today. Nya, 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 nya. And what he says, actually, what he does is he continues reading his paper. In those days, we still read papers. And he says, that's reality number two. If any of us were watching a video, we'd say that's what happened. Carole was talking and Andy just said, and didn't look up. Now, what happens to me is I say, you're not listening. I don't know whether whether he's listening or not. I am in his reality. I am not in his head. And when I say you're not listening, I make him defensive, less likely to be open to what I'm saying. So I have to learn to stay on my side of the net, which is the two realities I know, what he did and said, and how it impacted me. So there's a big difference between you're not listening and I'm not feeling heard. It sounds subtle, but it's huge. And because then it escalates. When I'm not feeling heard, then I start imputing motives. How can you not care? By the way, the worst version of this is I feel that you don't care, which does not have a single feeling word in it. And so one of the reasons the course is called touchy-feely is that what students have to learn is to access their feelings in response to what others are doing and speak from there, which is why mindfulness is a really important element of becoming more interpersonally skilled. It's also about being in touch with what's going on for you. So when I learned to say, I don't feel heard, and when I don't feel heard, I feel distanced and sad, then he loves me. He doesn't want me to feel distanced and sad. Now he's more open to listening. And by the way, what happens now is we get to talk about what do we each need? Because the purpose of an exchange like that, the purpose of feedback in general, people in business really need to learn this. The purpose of feedback is to move into problem solving when it's constructive feedback. So we had a problem, but the kind of feedback I was giving him, you're not listening, I feel that you don't care, is not feedback. It wasn't until I learned to say, when all I get is a grunt and no eye contact, I don't feel heard. Now we get to move. Then he says to me, well, if you want my undivided attention, you have to give me some time to unwind when I get home. I said, oh, okay. How much time do you need? He said, I don't know, half an hour. I said, half an hour? I've been counting the minutes until you got home. So how about 5 minutes? We settled on 15, but it also brought us, so we solved the problem, but it also brought us closer because we came to understand a little more about each other. Even though we'd been married for quite a while, I understood a little more about what he needed when he got home. He understood a little bit more about what I needed when he got home. And one of the hallmarks of the course is both learning how to use the three realities to be better at providing feedback, but also how to use them as a better way of getting to know each other. Because embedded in my saying, I feel dismissed, or I feel sad, or I feel distanced, is disclosure. Every piece of feedback includes disclosure if it's well given, if it's not just blaming. And so, I mean, I could obviously talk for an entire hour about this. That might be what you were looking for. And if you're looking for any more or have any questions, I'm happy to say more.
Exceptional, Dr. Carole.
Thank you.
Now, I'd love to swing over to Dr. Conor. And Dr. Conor, you're in the high performance industry, and I know what it means to be a high performing athlete. I was one. And in that industry, people tend to distance emotion and feelings. And so how do you coach and empower leaders in that industry, in the sports industry specifically, to thrive and communicate effortlessly in order to improve their performance?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kate. First off, just before I answer that, I think that was fantastic by Dr. Carole. I was just thinking there about, as she said, a metaphorical net between the husband and the wife. And well, initially I thought, Kate, that your question was going to be for me to defend the male in that way, but nope, I'm not going to go there. But yeah, we can all put ourselves in that particular scenario, I think. And I just started thinking of like a rug. If you could fling a rug under that metaphorical net, and a rug of empathy, really. So that's where I think the back end of what Dr. Carole was saying, that you both found that common ground, and what more can you do but put your feet into the shoes of empathy and into the shoes of another person, and on that rug. So yeah, with regard to the high performance and with regard to everybody, I think they're the tip of the iceberg of what's going on right now. As we stand, it's really interesting. I mean, here we are in 4 different time zones speaking with fantastic technology. We can all see and hear each other, and it's broadcast on perhaps several live platforms, which is absolutely incredible. When you think about it, that within our lifetime, we haven't had the internet. We couldn't even perceive it or conceive it. Most of us here up until the last 25 or so years. So with that, I think that we have to use the tools we have, and we've seen that in 2020, and now we're coming back out of things in 2021, and we're entering into what people and we all perceive and only know as normal, but it's a whole new atmosphere. So we don't know what the normal will be. It's up to ourselves to create it, I think. And the tip of the iceberg there is the high performers. I think people in, like you said, professional sport or music, or performers with regard to any entertainment, because people want to get out there and about, it's a natural urge. We have this natural ability and need to connect with everybody else. So these people are going to be really looked at to create the show as such, more so than ever before. But the thing about high performers, a lot of them are really high achievers. And so they're under pressure within themselves initially. And I think that's where we have to, again, that role of empathy has to be given, because there's a lot of high performers that haven't performed in front of a crowd. For example, there was one particular sports coach I was talking to a couple of months ago about a fantastic footballer who had a fantastic first season with a new team and scored lots and lots of goals. But the question was put was, would they score as many goals in front of a crowd, 60, 80, 100,000 people? So that's a different thing, because we know the entertainment industry, even though they're televised live, thankfully, in the last few months, these people are only human beings too. So they have to connect with other people and know what's out there with regard to their crowd and their own anxieties, perhaps, that they have themselves within the four walls. And that's all it really is, no matter how rich you are as a performer or a high performance person, or a person who has, even an entrepreneurship, who has millions or billions of dollars. It doesn't really matter. We've leaned on this technology and used this tool. So I think what we're entering into could be a hybrid type of world where technology will play its role, like we're doing right now. And I think there needs to be a huge amount of empathy as we enter into this, because as we know, if we look back, say, for example, from the very beginning of COVID, a lot of people kind of said that this is our lifetime's world war as such. And if we look at a world war, okay, there wasn't guns and bullets in it, but what there was is this kind of disconnect between other people. And so we have to realize, coming out of a war, for example, we look back at the Spanish pandemic as well as another time in the 1920s or so, and coming into that time, we had the roaring 20s where people connected and socialized and did all these wonderful things together, made memories. So we have to just kind of know that there's a transitionary period, and everybody, more than the first couple of months of COVID where we looked after our elderly, everybody has to be pulled along and at their own pace as well. And if they're the high performing individuals, it's really, really important for us all, because these are the ones, as I said, that are the tip of the iceberg that we expect them not to have any reaction to the last 18 months or so. So we have to just kind of roll back a little bit, I think, and just realize that. And I think what Dr. Carole said there, the mindfulness as well, and what we started there, Kate, as well, with that beautiful meditation, to be able to know that this is the moment now. And, what happened in 2019, 2018 and previous years, that time is gone. And we have to live for the now, and we have to carve out through our lifetimes, both individually and together.
Yeah, that Dr. Conor, as you're talking, I can see the iceberg in the high performers. They show us the tip of the iceberg, but underneath they have to be exceptionally wise, also about emotional intelligence, or otherwise it can break them. And so thank you for that. Now, Dr. Azeeza, you run a company and it's going public now. And so how does communication impact the way you run the organization, especially as you advocate for conscious capitalism, bringing spirituality to the organizations in the world? You're 5.9K followers on Clubhouse, and I'm a regular in your room, and you're fierce. Share with us, please.
Did you say the word fierce? I take it, well, all praise to Almighty. And, thank you so much, Kate, for creating this space so we can have a conversation around this. The most important thing that needs to happen for us right now is to be in our heart. I so relate to what Dr. Conrad and Dr. Carole was talking about, because the real world needs human to be more humane. And that part of us, that when it's authentic and it shines through, I feel like, we're kind of like halfway done, because, any communication is a two-way thing. And communication, as we speak about it in our intrinsic values in conscious leadership, is an exchange of energy. So how clear are we in our individual energy as we start communicating? And everything that we are speaking about is the energy that is not aligned, the energy that is not seeing each other just for the space of who we are, rather than creating all the various layers of stories that we come with, and the other word we say baggages we come with. So we want to have that cleansing effect on each one of us. And that, you know what, for me has been, and as you ask me, and when I reflect back, you're asking me all these questions on, before the program also, it got me to think, yes, how did I start communicating? How did I go about reaching out to people? So it is the first step is to communicate without judgment. And I have to say, this is not an easy task. We're not talking about, I'm talking about the ideal situation. So how do you communicate without judgment? And how do you go about creating the intention, first of all, before you start speaking or writing, the intention, and being very, very centered when we want to send a message. And that is a practice, and our mind generally is not wired for that. We just like what's up here goes out. Sometimes our here is faster than here, if you understand what I mean. So that's the, let me tell you that's where all my issue came about previously. So I've learned the journey of like what to speak and what not to speak, and become extra sensitive when I'm communicating with people across culture. I still remember one of those days when I met one of my earliest mentors, when he sit down in meetings and I sit down and observe him speak with people. I was like, wow, he just reads into people and he gets it, like no problem. And he can really sense out this person, we can work with this person. I was like, how do you do that? And as I started experiencing that in my life, I realized that it is not about judging, it's just being present with people and knowing that this is just knowing, okay, I don't even want to go into any others, just knowing how this person is and how we can support them, or if not, staying away, not supporting them. It doesn't matter. It's not judging that as well. So it's completely being present with people and allowing people to, be in that space of energy, of flow. And when the flow is flowing, we are on the right track. So I have really, I have to say that that's been the journey for me. And even if it's verbal, written, and one-to-one, face-to-face. And, I've been quite face-to-face before Clubhouse and before all this time. I've been in the international time zone for a long time. So I really get to recognize different cultures, and it all comes through experience. But at the same time, the very first step is to be present and knowing that we are exchanging energy at a higher level.
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Azeeza. So you and I collaborate, and there was one incident in WhatsApp, and we cleared that. And so I want to thank you, and so grateful that you and I want to, our vision aligns to greater than us, our ego, and we can collaborate and speak about it, and we're not afraid of conflict. And I think that I want to insert that, do not be afraid of conflict, because this is part of communication, part of life. And through conflict, we can build more solid relationship as we forces together. And now I would love to shift into and come back to Dr. Carole. In this day and age, COVID has really bumped us up into using technology more widely, right?
Yes.
So when we combine, WhatsApp communication, Zoom communication without video, things like this, that is sort of non-human, but it's in the middle of human relationship. How do we innovatively mitigate the communication strategy, Dr. Carole?
So I think this relates back to something that Dr. Conor mentioned, which is one of the things which is the impact of technology, just in general, on our ability to relate to each other. In business in particular, my experience is that tasks have become more and more foregrounded, while relationships became more and more backgrounded over the last year and a half, because people only have so much bandwidth and they got to get the work done. And so that some of the more casual but automatic relating to each other as we gathered for a meeting, or as a meeting broke up and we walked back to our offices, is not happening, which means that, And I agree with Dr. Conor that we're moving to a hybrid because now people have discovered the advantages of using technology, which means we're going to have to really double down on paying attention to continuing to nurture the relationship building. It's not just going to happen automatically. And leaders, in my opinion, have to be really intentional and deliberate. So that, you know, some of the things that some of the leaders in tech, CEOs that I'm working with, they've developed structures so that when they all meet at the beginning of a meeting, they're all on Zoom still. They're all now all over the country. Who knows when they'll meet again? But they, as an example, one of them starts every meeting having every member of his executive team, that's 7 of them, say, complete the sentence, "If you really knew me." And then they all have this vocabulary of feelings, which is in the appendix of our book and a part of the syllabus of the course. And they have to include at least 3 feeling words. If you really knew me right now, you'd know that I feel inspired and hopeful by this event. If you really knew me right now, I sometimes feel incredibly frustrated that I can't figure out how to get the word out about this work more efficiently. You know, now that might be some stuff you would have made up about me anyway, but now you know me a little bit better. And of course, if we've been working together a lot, every time we do one of these, you get to know me even better. I become a little more vulnerable. And by the way, what we know about vulnerability and disclosure is that they're reciprocal. The more I'm willing to tell you a little bit about me, and I suspect Dr. Azeeza in business and at business school and Dr. Conor certainly understand that that's part of why we're trying to elevate what's considered a strong leader to somebody who actually sets new norms and rules of behavior. You know, a lot of people have asked me why, you know, how does this course become like the most popular elective at the Stanford Business School? And you know, isn't it just touchy-feely? That's what the students call it. And you know, my answer is people do business with people. They don't do business with ideas or machines or products. And they lead people. They don't lead plans and money. So until you start to get the people part right, you're going to be limited. And I want to say one last thing, which is related to what we're talking about. In our book, we talk about how we're all equipped with 2 antennae. One antenna is picking up signals on what's going on for me. The other antenna, hopefully, is tuned into picking up signals for what might be going on for you. And the more I slow down, this mindfulness comes in again, the more I slow down to notice both what's going on for me and what's going on for you, the more I'll stay on my side of the net, but also to Dr. Conor's point, the more I'll realize that I haven't been curious enough, that I may not have been empathetic enough, that, you know, that I got so caught up in my own story and my own stuff that I've forgotten there's another human being on the other side. So I think everything we're talking about has the potential to not only help us get through this difficult time as we adapt to a new hybrid world, I think it has the potential to collectively up all of our games.
I love that. Like upping all of our games, doubling down on focusing on human first, and delete the false paradigm of putting material first, money first, thing idea first, but really be in the center of treating one another with kindness.
Yes.
Upping our game about how do I responsibly communicate with you, communicate in me to me. That really matters.
Yeah. And all of us have used the word connect, which of course is the title of my book. It's all about learning how to connect. And stunningly, a lot of people don't know how. In spite of how important that is to us as human beings, a lot of people don't know how to move a relationship from distant, dysfunctional contact with no connection to at least something that's robust and functional. Never mind exceptional and like really deeply connected. You know, there's a lot of gray in between. A lot of people get stuck there at one end and feel helpless.
I mean, I've certainly been there, and I saw therapists for 3 years in San Francisco, and I know this drill. And Dr. Carole, thanks for sharing that. And is why we're, as leaders, holding 4 pillars here and having a dialogue so that people can learn how to do this. Yeah. So, yeah. Dr. Conor, how about you? Same question for your industry, high performance for musician, as athlete, and all of them. And let me welcome Walter. He is an admin at Stanford Graduate School of Business. He's my colleague at LEAD. So as he's plugging in, Dr. Carole, please. Yes. So Dr. Conor,
Hi, Walter.
Yeah, do you have an answer, Dr. Conor?
Yeah, well, I think Dr. Carole has touched on something really interesting there with regard to leadership. First off, I think that, you know, whether it's sport, whether it's performance in any regard, business, ultimately, you've got 2 things. First off, human beings, you either want to, especially as a high performing person, and a lot of what she said, and those people, and the people that we require, the types of people now is what we need is leaders, to lead us through to the next era of whatever it's going to be after this dark night of the last 18 months or so. And I think there's 2 types of real traits that happen really, and that's either competition or collaboration. But in reality, they're 2 sides of the one coin of what she's saying, you know, this relatability, because we need to have human beings in the center of it all. And if we don't put everybody first, we're going to lose out. Because if we think of, say, for example, again, high performance sport or business, entrepreneurship, the clinical part of that, say, for example, is innovation. Yeah. And where technology, and we've touched on it, gives us a great tool, the speed of technology and the advancements, even in the last, say, 18 months or so, when we've been sleeping, when we've been away from the office as such, everybody has to get back to that in some regard. And as Dr. Carole touched on, a lot of the people skills, even prior to COVID-19, were missing in the first place. So what are they going to be like now? I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's the same way in exercise. It's the same way in performing as a singer, a musician, or with regard to your leadership and leading a crowd. Like we often hear of, for example, public speaking, the amount of human beings that are high performers that are hugely afraid of speaking in public. Yeah. And so the skills that we have, the natural anxieties, and we all have anxieties as human beings, every one of us at some part or in some instance of our life or another. But certainly as we enter into a more crowded society, we have to realize that I'm not ahead, you're not ahead. We're all on the same start line here. So it's up to us individually and collectively to look at whether I want to collaborate or to communicate. Now, the thing about technology, again, just touching on that as well, is that it's a wonderful tool. But as we were kind of doing other things and leaning on certain types of technology, for sure, all around the world, we could even use verbs for some of the brands that we used. Technology has been rolling along, and the ultimate aim of technology is to make the human process of doing things, productivity, more efficient. Like we look at the Industrial Revolution, for example, we look at how factories mass produce goods, and therefore there was a lack of need or requirement for certain types of jobs. And so now we're going into a phase essentially where technology is going to be way more advanced in many ways. And so ultimately, for example, we can see artificial intelligence. If we think of those 2 words, obviously it's not real, but we know it's so advanced, so much so now that it's allowing people almost in many jobs to be replaced. Yeah. But the thing about that is that even if we look at the simple things like Dr. Carole touched on at the very start, there was, you know, just even coming from a physical meeting within a particular, say, for example, business, where you're around a table and you're doing your business, talking about business, and then you walk back to your offices individually or to a canteen or a lunch area or something like that. That is the personability and the connectivity that we're talking about. And if you have like 5, 10 little instances of that every day, over a week, over a month, even if you're living as a single person alone and have no social life going on, those are the magic moments that kind of keep you going, keep your skills sharp. So I think, yeah, it's like we have to realize that we have the lead of, say, for example, technology, and people are still at the forefront of everything. And of course, it's leaders, but new leaders are needed and required. And I think it's a very wise leader in any type of industry with regard to, say, for example, business and enterprise, that puts a person that has the soft skills to the forefront.
I love that last statement you mentioned, Dr. Conor. So soft skill is something that we're all catching up to, and it has been sort of put in the back seat of the car. Now we're bringing back to the driver's seat, and soft skill is imperative in top leadership, especially. And these people have mastered, I wouldn't say 95%, just metaphorically, have mastered soft skills, and that is why they can perform really well. But from the cover, cover the magazine, soft skill, we don't see that they have soft skill that has helped them in being in the position where they are. And so speaking about this explicitly, that what is required in the new leadership is the soft skill is impactful. Thank you for that. And Dr. Azeeza, how about you? Same question. And specifically for your team, you have eight member in your team with global collaborators. And when I enter your room in Clubhouse, you have, power players in there. And how do you lead from your heart and using emotional intelligence connected to the, God Almighty, the heart spiritual being, one God. Okay. And lead the Asian community where things may be sort of falling behind in terms of, embracing emotional intelligence, woman empowerment, things like that.
Thank you for asking that. And I just love what both Dr. Carole and Dr. Conor are speaking about. And I just want to say leadership is needed and conscious leadership is needed. And that's where, it inspired me to, work on creating the 5 intelligence framework. We've spoken about this in previous summits and in our one-to-one, live events on LinkedIn. What I am seeing right now, and speaking into, again, what Dr. Carole was talking about, there is a gap. There is an obvious gap in why somebody is behaving in a certain way. So the importance of skills is, or what we call soft skill, there's 2 parts to this. One is extrinsic. I'm suggesting, and very much many times, most soft skills taught outside is extrinsic. That means you can actually go out there and practice it. Like, for example, when we focus into speaking skills, body language, hand gestures, the tone of my voice, these are very extrinsic. And the more I practice, I can become perfect in it. And I can actually fake it to a great extent. And it remains extrinsic. But when we're going to become intrinsic and we become aware of my body language, and really when I'm moving my hands, it's not because I want to move it, because I'm flowing with my body. And that is intrinsic. And those values are aligned when we become more healing, more healed, more effective, and become aware of what's working. Like, for example, I'll just give you one simple example. Why do people, when they speak and the body doesn't react with them? So sometimes you say something, but you're going this way. It means your body is disagreeing with what you say. I mean, like, that is what you need to catch. I said, did I just do that? So what happened that I'm not congruent in my communication? So when we go intrinsic, and there's a whole range of intrinsic values we speak about, what's really important is for us to go onto that healing journey. I have to say this, Kate, among not just the Asians I connected with, but internationally, be it my US mentors and clients and team members who I have been working with, and of course in other parts like Australia and UK, one of the most important thing is how clear are we on our past experiences? How much are we allowing ourselves to heal out of past experiences, either way, so that we remove judgments within us, so we can support others in the same way. So I'm sure you heard of this word, speaking the truth with compassion. So when you can only create compassion for others when you have compassion for yourself, and the importance of healing within, that's the secret. the master secret to being able to have powerful intrinsic values, that when we are communicating, we are coming from a clean slate. So we are open to receive judgments. We are open. I mean, people can judge us. So what? People can talk anything to us. So what? And you know, we talk about the Don Miguel 5 agreements. The very first one, don't take, of course, the first, you can go in any order. Being impeccable in your words is one. But I am still, and I think it's a journey for everyone to work on. Number 2, don't take anything personal. And for that, so much of important personal alignment is needed, and for us to heal at every stage, to know that these things happening, it could be narratives, it could be cellular level memories that's taking over what you're doing. And so going about healing and becoming clear with our intrinsic values, that we can open up and speak the truth. We can say the truth, but with compassion, the way that we communicate, we are respecting people's space, and then we are allowing our message to go through. And I feel those communication has been the pillar. And I have to say, I'm still learning. There are times, you know, sometimes I'm over cautious, and that itself can become a little bit of a test. And then I pick it up. I say, okay, you have to speak the truth with compassion, and learning that will be the most powerful space to operate from. So healing intrinsic skills in soft skill arena is one of the top most, especially in conscious leadership among business leaders.
Absolutely. The sentence that pops out is speaking your truth with compassion. And I wonder, of the doctors, what do you think about this conundrum between, okay, one, speak your truth, but truth is not enough. You have to be tactful about this. So could you briefly share this about this, Dr. Carole? Yes.
You know, I think it's a trap. I think we trap ourselves often because we end up being not direct when we think, oh, I've got to be very careful what I say. And then we actually do a disservice to ourselves and the other. So I do think, I very much agree with my 2 colleagues here about the role of empathy and curiosity. Like, I wonder why you're, and by the way, one thing I've been wanting to say from the beginning when judgment was mentioned is that it is impossible. Curiosity is impossible if you don't at least suspend judgment. If you've already decided you know what's going on, you're not going to be curious. So you're not going to find out what's going on for the other person. The other thing that I, in answer to what you just asked, was speaking your truth in service of what? Speaking your truth in service of yourself, the other, and your relationship is what I advocate. I'm not going to speak my truth to make you feel bad if I've got something to say to you that you're doing that's annoying me, but I am going to speak my truth directly, knowing that it might hurt a little bit, but I will go out of my way to make sure you hear my intent. This is back to something Dr. Conor said earlier, my intent in telling you. I am telling you this because I really care about our relationship. And if I don't tell you, then it's not going to go away. It's just going to fester and get worse. So aren't we both better off if we talk about it? But that takes a whole different way. You know, a lot of us live with mental models that are ingrained in us, beliefs, assumptions especially about leadership, how you need to show up as a leader in order to be a good leader. And the problem is that we learn those very early in our careers, and then they get set. And then we don't realize that as we become leaders in different contexts and we rise in hierarchies, that requires a different kind of leadership, like the kind of leadership that was required of me when I was a brand new branch manager when I was 27 years old is very different than what was required from me, when I was running a $50 million business. Is very different than what's required of me as the co-founder of a new startup. And yet, I'm a teacher, so of course I'm all about, at least advocating for more learning. And there's so much to be learned about ourselves and about how to create stronger relationships when we engage with someone else in the ways we're all talking about, as opposed to thinking we already know, or just doing the same thing we've always done and thinking we're going to get a different result. That was Einstein's as a famous Einstein quote, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is one of the definitions of insanity. So if things aren't working, maybe the place to start is, wonder what I'm doing that's not working. And I wonder, and just having a spirit, this where again is where I think mindfulness is so important. First of all, being in a state of curiosity and beginner's mind. There's so much, every interaction with another human being is an opportunity to learn. And it could be a human being you've known your whole life. It could be a human being you just met, but every one of them is an opportunity to learn about yourself, about them, and about your relationship.
Absolutely. Listening to all of you brings me to present moment. And Dr. Conor, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, it's so interesting because we really are on this new journey, but at the same time, I sense that there's a requirement kind of that's going through a lot of what has been said there with regard to slowing down, being mindful, a lot of, shall we say, and we talk about soft skills, a lot of, obviously we're talking about with soft skills, relationships, and like you mentioned earlier on there, Kate, how can you speak the truth? How can you be tactful? Like the simple things like you can speak the truth. What I think is being said there is that you have to first believe the truth yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because like what Dr. Carole kicked off there with regard to that scenario at the start, there was 2 to 3 different truths. But now we've all experienced COVID-19. So are we going to experience the next part of the journey together? Or are we going to separate ourselves? So that's to do with this leadership. That's to do with the way we mindfully communicate. And if I see the truth in my leadership and I can speak the words, even if they're difficult to speak, even if maybe 2 years ago, I wasn't able to speak those things to a certain colleague or person that I am hierarchically over, we say, if I'm uncomfortable, if I'm less experienced and they're more experienced or whatever else, or if I've been employed from the outside, there in the company, for example, 20 years or something like that, and I'm afraid to put others' noses out of joints or something like that. The reality is my words and what I say and how I say them and what I believe in them. You can change your tone of voice, like Dr. Azeeza said, your hands, I love what she said there. Your hands, when you're speaking, they're flowing with what's going inside or coming from outside of yourself, from inside of yourself intrinsically. So that's where there's a truth. Like we have this innate nature. And the funny thing is, we're journeying into the unknown in many ways. But we also know that in the background in the last couple of years, there's also this global warming thing happening within our lifetime. And we do know the healing of that is to do with looking after nature. And the thing about nature is that if we look after nature, it will look after us. And we also know that nature would provide us with a prevention, which is always better than a cure. And it's us that is the center of this whole thing. So I think that if we slow down, be mindful, like has been said, and get the best out of yourself. We've been such a long time now in several lockdowns, no matter where we are in the world, with such a lack of time, not knowing what moment in time are we in, what's happening, when is this going to finish? Is my life different, altered, changed? Everything I've done in my past, will it lead me to where I need to go in the future? Such uncertainty. If we have not, as individual people, stopped and thought deeply within ourselves and reflected on our life so far and wondered, well, at least if I get this chance again to do this or that, or go here or there, or lead, that I can at least bring what's deep inside of me out. So if we haven't reflected, if an individual hasn't reflected, if a leader hasn't reflected, well, don't worry, because the world is, as we said, a hybrid. It's like it's just opening. There's going to be an anxiety. But remember, you're in the warm-up now. So you're in the warm-up for the race, again, the rat race, but you can slower the race if you wish with your control. That's what I think.
I love the analogy of race before, starting a marathon per se. And the image I get is butterfly. We're in a cocoon stage. Let's reflect what hasn't been working before. Okay, now in the lockdown, we can choose to incubate ourselves to become a better version of ourselves. Dr. Azeeza, do you have anything to add here?
I am so excited. Two words are coming out of this conversation, and especially when Dr. Carole and Dr. Conor was saying, is commitment and equality. So I just want to talk into that. The commitment that we make on what we want out of that relationship. If I'm going to communicate with someone, my commitment to make the relationship work. I just want to relate back to what Kate, you and I went through. That was a commitment for a higher good.
Yes.
And then comes the second part, seeing the value in each other without doubting and not saying, hey, I'm here to be the one to rule over you or say to you. That sense of equality is so crucial, knowing that everyone is the same regardless. So this has been also an experience I've realized, like when somebody from one country goes to another, and this has got a lot to do with cellular level memories and what has happened in the past in our ancestrals. When somebody goes from one country to another to share knowledge or be in that space, and because I've traveled quite a bit from that angle, it's like, who are you to come here and teach me what to do? That comes out big. And this is very, very real for Singapore-Malaysia relationship. I'm not going into any politics right now, just saying energetically, when I was traveling to Malaysia and was sharing these exciting things that came up, and I said, hey, let's learn this. They were like, you're from Singapore. Who are you to come and teach me how to do my life in Malaysia? So this is true for across the world. And when somebody comes from one country to the other, so we're seeing, so that's where communication needs to be extra sensitive, and we're not saying who to serve what. I'm here to share because we are equal. We're exchanging. The exchange of energy happens there from that energy space, not because, and a sense of oneness, not because I'm talking down to you to tell you what to do. Rather, let's receive and go into. So commitment to make it happen and feeling a sense of equality and allowing the other person know that we are one in this game, and not that I'm telling you what to do, but I'm being, and that's the magic word, right? Being that person and knowing that I am speaking to one of me. Sometimes when I'm speaking, and like right now, I feel like it's a monologue because I feel like whatever I'm saying is actually for myself while I'm hearing everybody. It's a powerful oneness conversation here, and that helps us to elevate and bring people to a sense of clarity and power when we are doing anything. So from there, with that energy in a team, in a society, in a country, in a global space, it becomes like a mission we are all set out to do. And Kate, because of that, and only because of that conscious, I'm so blessed to have all these conscious influencers and come through and be a part of this whole mission of global peace through global business. And for that vision, what kind of sense of clarity we all need in that space. Yeah. Thank you for asking that, and thank you for this amazing space.
Yeah. Dr. Azeeza and Dr. Conor and Dr. Carole and Walt listening here, I am so grateful that in life, there is test. Test comes along the way, and it tested my position. Like Dr. Conor said, what is my truth? What do I believe in? And I was able to speak my truth, to people, and people sort of adjust. That's what I saw. And so there's a concept that we teach how people treat us. And that is why it's important to speak your truth. You're doing your fellow service, like Dr. Carole mentioned here. And Dr. Azeeza and I, with the test of that WhatsApp incident, technology, I'm going to kind of sort of put it on technology though, our leadership shine through. And I think this is what the global leaders need. It's okay to have conflict. Let's reconnect to what is our deepest value, and let's come back and play again. Life is short, it's fun, and we're providing value to the world. Due to time, Walt, hello Walt, do you have any Any question? If you have any question, I would love to receive it from our Stanford back channel. Walt, could you say hello to everyone? Yeah.
Everything sounded like a very thought-provoking and encouraging in terms of communication and being able to share with others. Apologies for not being able to join sooner, and I'll try and catch up on the next one.
Thanks, Walt. I'd love to connect you with Dr. Carole at our Stanford network here. So everyone, thanks for tuning in, and grateful that we're having this dialogue. Our company, we have a program designed for you and your employees to build inner happiness easily in 30 days. In the 30 Days Happiness Program, we host world-renowned Dr. Fred Luskin from Stanford University and research scientist Dr. Narges from Tohoku University and Edward Anthony from the Stanford Children's Hospital. They each elaborate further about the scientific benefit of forgiveness, meditation, and spirituality. The 30-Day Happiness Program is available now at lifeofemerald.com/all-classes. Sign up today. And doctors, how do we get in touch with you? Dr. Carole, your book is coming up. Please share with us.
My book actually is out. It's been out. Actually, it's been purchased and it's been translated in 14 different countries, including Korea. The best way to find me or anything out about the book is just go to Connect and Relate, all one word, CONNECT and relate, RELAT.com. That's not the name of the book, but it was the closest we could come when we looked for a URL. So connectandrelate.com. It'll tell you all about our work. And you can see lots of podcasts, and you can download some free assessments and free guidelines for how to use the book. And so I hope you'll check it out, connectandrelate.com.
And Dr. Carole, your book is called Connect.
The book is called Connect, Building Exceptional Relationships with Family, Friends, and Colleagues.
Thank you for your work. Dr. Conor, how do we connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me on my website, docconor.com. So that's DOCCONOR.com. And all the, I suppose, related social media is there. And yeah, I love that. We've used the word connection a few times now in the last couple of sentences. So we're doing a good job, Grace.
All right, so let me connect you with Dr. Azeeza as well. Dr. Azeeza, how do we connect with you?
Thank you for asking, and just beautiful space that we have shared today. On LinkedIn would be the best and fastest, and as well as we have our goglobalchannel.com, where we are also, making these videos once available, also can be channeled through that and seen through that. So we have all our 500 over videos of various spiritual teachers and global leaders sharing there as well. So you can get in touch with there and learn more about us and connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah,
you can find me on LinkedIn too, by the way, and sometimes our book website doesn't send you my stuff. So Carole Robin LLC, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We'll stay connected.
Yeah, I'll make sure to include all your information on our video. And Dr. Conor, do you have last comment to share?
Well, blessed I am amongst the women. So that's my. Haven't I so lucky?
And Dr. Azeeza, how about you?
Feeling very grateful that we are here together, and I'm just looking forward to what else is possible for humanity when such beautiful people show up consistently. Kate, in your Sacred Healing Summit, this is a movement surely in the space of growth for the next level, and I'm so excited on all the follow-ups that we're going to be having with this beautiful community. Thank you.
Thank you too.
This is when I say I'm done speaking.
Dr. Carole, how about you? Last word of wisdom. Bring us home.
I want to say ditto to Dr. Azeeza and Dr. Conor. I think that what we're doing here holds the promise of a very different future for our children and our children's children. I think that if we could bring what we're talking about to a critical mass of human beings on this planet, we would have significantly healthier and happier families, marriages, business people, teams, organizations, communities, maybe even governments. But I really do think it's about a critical mass of people who are all committed to it, because we need each other. It's a long, lonely road. And we've talked about soft skills a lot. Soft skills are the hardest. Otherwise, lots of people would be doing them a lot better.
Life is such a comedy. Why don't we just call it hard skill, soft skill? Everyone, I can be reached at lifeofemerald@gmail.com. A special thanks to our esteemed speakers for sharing your expertise with us. All of us can be found on Clubhouse as well. Take care, be well, everyone. See you next month. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.